we have lost a lot of resources that we used to have. We've cut aides and we've cut teaching positions.
School is back in session. Class sizes have gotten larger and teachers are doing more with less. It all comes down to school funding. Currently, schools have less money to operate with than they did 4 years ago. But there is more than enough money to make up for the funding shortfall if people and businesses would pay their property taxes on time.
I don't know how they can get away with that.
Good evening, I'm Karen Larson.
And I'm Russ McCaskey. In the next half hour, the 2 News investigators will be tracking your tax dollars. Every year you're taxed on income and property, but many don't pay their taxes.
During this show, we will expose big businesses that are hundreds of thousands of dollars behind in their property taxes. And we'll introduce you to the person in Tulsa County who owes the most in back property taxes. You'll be shocked by the lifestyle she keeps.
So how big is the problem? Here are the facts. Property taxes for 2012 were due by the end of March. Now the good news is fewer than 10% of property owners in Tulsa County did not pay their taxes. The 2 News investigators asked for a list of those who did not pay back in April. The bad news is the list of delinquent properties for 2012 still ended up being more than 1,000 pages long.
Now, these documents represent, as of today, more than 13,000 properties behind in taxes. The amount of money still owed to Tulsa County totals $12.4 million.
You pay your taxes, so why should you care about those who don't? Because the majority of property taxes help fund our schools, paying for teachers, textbooks, computers, all the tools your children need to learn.
2 News investigator Marla Carter and the investigators team have spent over 200 hours tracking unpaid property taxes, and she joins us now with the results of this investigation.
Well, Russ and Karen, this stack of papers represents all of those delinquent properties. And Tulsa Public Schools started last week understaffed by more than 40 teachers. And even if those were filled, the class sizes are still large. But the money these documents represent, 13,000 delinquent properties and more than $12 million, could go a long way to make up a lack of funding.
Now, Marla, when we think of delinquent property taxes, we think of perhaps homeowners, but they actually make up a very small portion of those who don't pay.
That's right. And looking at the top amount of unpaid taxes, we found businesses make up most of the list.
1/8, 1/8, 1/8.
For Miss A, her math problem
How many eighths does it take to equal one whole?
is figuring out how to get 25 desks in a 300-square-foot classroom.
Space is a precious commodity here. What's the top number called?
With 25 students, this Burroughs Elementary room is a tight fit.
People don't talk about the physical environment and the physical limitations of the classroom as well when you have 25 to 30 students. I've had multiple kids bonk their heads with each other when they're just trying to scoot out their chairs.
Businesses make up the majority of delinquent property taxes. Taxes still owed for last year and are not available to help fund the schools. Businesses like this shopping center, 61st and South Memorial, Eaton Square. Its former owner, Transcontinental Realty out of Dallas, owes $120,000 for 2012, according to the county treasurer's office. We called the company's CEO. He did not return our calls. But that's just 2012. Our investigation dug deeper than just into these 1,000 pages from last year. Records show that Eaton Square owes $390,000 when you add up their back taxes and interest, going back to 2010. But we didn't stop there. We found one business owes taxes on 100 properties. Brightside Properties owns and rents out dozens of homes. They owe $201,000 in taxes for the past 3 years. The owner, Rod Sperlin, didn't answer the door or return our calls. We wanted to know what happens to these violators. So we went to the Tulsa County Treasurer's office.
If they're not paid, they begin accruing interest at the rate of 1.5% per month.
For the property owners here and the thousands of others who still owe for last year, that interest started accruing on May 15th. Eventually, after 3.5 years, if the property taxes and interest are not paid,
the property will be sold for non-payment of taxes.
And Eaton Square is one of those properties that was ready to be sold for back taxes back in June. However, we talked to the new owner, U.S. Acquisition Properties, out of Denver in May, and they paid enough of those back taxes by the end of May to keep it from being sold. And they also told 2 News they do plan to pay the rest of the taxes owed by the previous owner over time. If the property taxes on just Eaton Square and Brightside Properties were brought up to date, it would be enough to pay the starting salaries of 16 more teachers.
Those should be equal.
For Miss A, that solution could mean fewer students in her classroom, more room for the children, and more room to learn.
Well, you'd think that at some point in time, I don't know if it's getting community, parents involved, that we recognize the ramifications of these large class sizes on our students.
Depending on the district, anywhere between 50 and 75% of your property taxes goes to fund education. The rest is split up to help fund other county services, such as the health department, libraries, and county jobs. But education takes the biggest chunk of the property tax pie. 2 News reporter Pete Knutson shows us the people delinquent taxes hurt the most.
So this is a letter that I have written to you so that you can get to know me a little bit.
One of the first assignments for the kids in Mr. Parsons' 5th grade class this year.
You're going to tell me about you.
Writing him letters so he gets to know each and every student, all 27, a big number that concerns Mr. Parsons.
And so if you have 27 kids as opposed to 20, the classroom environment's just different. And then C, you guys go to music.
The reason for larger class sizes, educators say, the lack of state funding, made worse by property taxes that go unpaid. The Union District, for example, shortchanged by nearly $900,000 because of those overdue property tax payments.
It makes me angry.
Liz Martin has 3 kids in Union schools and is active in the PTA. Zach's classes in 6th grade are pushing 30, she says, and her other kids, a freshman and junior, have classes pushing 40. Some rooms don't even have enough desks. And even though Liz says teachers do a wonderful job, those class sizes make one-on-one attention for her kids and every student difficult.
It's frustrating when I know that they're not getting the contact with their teacher.
Union administrators say they could make good use of that $900,000 in uncollected property tax money. It's enough to hire 20 more teachers and additional classroom aides. That's enough to staff an entire elementary school. And they'd offer more tutoring too, they say, to kids who need it. But some property owners just aren't paying up.
That everybody should pay their share. Everybody benefits from a good school system.
District administrators say when you take those unpaid property taxes and add the loss of more than $5 million in general state funding since 2008, it's a 1-2 financial punch.
We have lost a lot of resources that we used to have. We've cut aides and we've cut teaching positions. And
no matter, Mr. Parsons says,
if you're going to tell me anything else that you want me to know about you.
He'll enjoy getting to know and teach every student in his class, no matter how many there are. Pete Knutson, 2 News works for you.
After reviewing thousands of records identifying 13,000 business owners and residents who haven't paid their property tax, we found the one person who owes the most on their home property taxes, and her name is Lori Parsons.
This is Lori Parsons, seen here at a golf tournament. She is the president and sole owner of Builders Steel Company Incorporated here in Tulsa. It's a construction company that, according to industry websites, has annual sales of around $10 million. She lives in a large home that's equipped with a theater room with leather seats, a fitness room, 11 baths, 7 bedrooms, and an in-ground pool, complete with her monogram in the tile bottom. Lori Parsons, who owns the home with her husband Brent, has been in the news lately. Earlier this month, Lori and Brent pleaded guilty to federal corruption charges. The charges were the results of a multi-million-dollar plan involving construction projects for the Choctaw Nation. According to court documents, the Parsons used Choctaw money paid to Builders Steel for goods and services to pay for personal items and trips. The sales receipts for their expenditures include the following: $855,000 at Louis Vuitton, $252,000 at Saks Fifth Avenue, $166,000 at Tiffany & Company. And those trips? $147,000 were spent on exclusive resorts. There was even a 1-week hunting trip to New Mexico that cost an additional $97,000. But none of the money Lori was spending went toward her property taxes on her home. Lori Parsons still owes $41,000 in property taxes for 2012. We wanted to know why she isn't paying. We started by calling.
This is Marla with Channel 2.
Then we went to her work.
I'm Marla with Channel 2, and I'm here to see Lori Parsons.
We tried to catch up with Lori Parsons at her 10,000 square foot home that's on the market for $2.6 million. In fact, it's so big, Our camera can't even capture the house in one shot.
The Parsons weren't home. Neither Lori nor Brent Parsons returned our calls, but their attorney did give us this statement saying she has every intention of meeting her property tax obligations and will make every effort with her remaining resources to satisfy her obligations. The $41,000 she owes in back taxes on this home could put another teacher and a dozen computers into Jenks Public Schools.
The U.S. Attorney's Office expects the Parsons to be sentenced in about 6 months, and they could face time behind bars. If they don't pay their property taxes, then the Jenks Public School District may not ever see their share of the money.
Thanks, Marley. You've really made us see just how one person not paying their taxes can affect a school.
We've been talking about how people and businesses not paying up hurt Tulsa County, but delinquent property taxes hurt school children all across Green Country, especially in the more rural counties. Here's what's owed in back property taxes in other counties. You can see here combined, Pawnee, Osage, and Rogers counties are owed nearly $2.5 million. Creek and Wagner counties are owed more than $2,300,000.
Property owners owe Okmulgee County more than $600,000 in back taxes. 2 News reporter Michelle Lowry goes to an Okmulgee public school and talks to the district's littlest students to see what they're facing without the money.
And remember, it's going up and down or sideways.
These second graders are tackling math.
The sum is the answer to an addition problem.
The problem of delinquent property taxes adds up to big shortfalls for these kids. It would take tens of thousands of little fingers to count the tens of thousands of dollars owed right now to Okmulgee Public Schools.
Wow, that's surprising. It makes me kind of sad.
Look at all of the different public school districts in Okmulgee County, and the amount due, more than $661,000.
I'm just really floored at how much money that, should have been collected.
Jackie McGirt is a well-loved 23-year veteran in the classroom.
Thank you.
That she's really, really nice. Sometimes she'll help us do work, like math.
Hello, do you hear O?
Okmulgee public school teachers and administrators say those thousands in delinquent taxes are sorely needed.
Every penny we can get, man, we can use.
Because there aren't enough teachers, computers, or books.
Textbooks are a big thing.
Principal Ware says even tables and chairs are a challenge.
We'll scrounge around, we scavenge, we go to other buildings.
In this pre-K class, the tables were collected from other sites. The chairs are brand new because parents held a fundraiser.
The next step, sitting on the floor, and we don't want that to happen. So let's pay our taxes.
What kind of math problem?
It's not just individuals and businesses. The state of Oklahoma owes more than $7,000 in delinquent taxes in Okmulgee County alone.
And that's what's sad, is because just because it's the state that owes the taxes, there's no penalties there.
GLAD, is that a thing?
That's right. The state's delinquent tax bill is not subject to penalties.
So the consequences go back on our students, and that's not right.
So what do we call the answer to a subtraction?
Michelle Lowry, 2 News works for you.
Now, as Michelle mentioned, even the state of Oklahoma is behind in paying property taxes. But their problem of paying late is bigger than you think.
When we come back, we'll show you how Oklahoma owes the most of all in late property taxes and how the state gets away with being late year after year.
You're watching 2 News Investigators, tracking your tax dollars.
Contact the 2 Works For You problem solvers at kjrh.com/problem solvers.
Held over for one final time. It's the Keystone 500. Now through Labor Day Monday only. Choose from a huge selection of vehicles up to half off. Yes, 50% off original price. Or for the final days, buy a new truck and get $15,000 cash back. Use the $15,000 as a down payment or just take the cash. $15,000. It's all yours. It's the Keystone 500. Now through Labor Day Monday only.
And remember, if it doesn't say Keystone Chevrolet, you paid too much.
I'm having mixed emotions. Today is back to work day.
Boo!
Yeah, but we get to celebrate with half-price breakfast burritos.
Yay!
Yeah, the long weekend's over.
Boo!
Well, we get twice as many burritos because they're all half price.
Yay!
Oh, I really wish you would stop cheering.
I'm sorry, I was causing you any discomfort.
Oh, well, that's very thoughtful.
Yay! Yay, 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 yay! Yeah!
Celebrate National Back to Work Day with half-price breakfast burritos all day on September 3rd. This is how you Sonic.
Hey,
Hi, Ellen. When things in my life are going terribly wrong, I just turn the TV on. You forget about all of your worries. I just thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Weekdays at 3 on 2 Works For You.
2 Works For You, your Emmy Award-winning local television station for Best Morning Newscast and Best Youth Program.
You hear that? Those are the sounds of summer. The long silence of winter has been broken by new life on the streets, and all the hibernating humans have finally come out to play. Just in time for you to show off what you spent the whole winter working so hard to get. Hurry in. This Labor Day wraps up the Chrysler Summer Clearance event. Get $4,250 total cash allowance on 300C or $3,500 total cash allowance on select 200 sedans.
Welcome back to our 2 News Investigators Tracking Your Tax Dollars special.
We all know that schools are struggling financially, and part of that is because of the millions of dollars in unpaid property taxes by homeowners and businesses.
Now, every homeowner is supposed to pay taxes on their property, but there are some businesses that are exempt from paying property taxes. You see, the state offers these exemptions to bring business and jobs into Oklahoma. So who pays those exempted taxes?
Marla Carter shows us who's supposed to pay the taxes on those exempt properties, and they owe the most in unpaid taxes.
Go ahead and go to the Start menu. Property taxes help your child's classroom. Paid by property owners like Robertson Tire.
We have 17 properties in Tulsa County and 5 in Rogers County and 1 in Wagner County.
And all of that adds up to $150,000 a year in property taxes.
We have to take care of our schools. Our schools are extremely important.
While Robertson and many businesses across Green Country pay that bill on time, thousands are late. So who's the very worst offender? The one who owes the most in unpaid property taxes for Tulsa County? That offender, the state of Oklahoma.
So the state of Oklahoma doesn't have a deadline of when that money's due.
That's right.
I don't know how they can get away with that.
The 2 News investigators pored over delinquent property taxes and found the state of Oklahoma still owes Tulsa County $1.4 million for last year's taxes.
Do you think it's fair that the state has more time than everybody else to pay? Is that fair?
The state is providing the money, and we could not be constitutionally in position to make that payment if there are no funds available.
Jeff Spellman is over property taxes for the state. The fund he's talking about pays the property taxes for hundreds of Oklahoma businesses. It's a reimbursement.
So here's the problem. It's a math problem. The state owes 50-some counties a total of $46 million. The fund to pay for those property taxes only gets $20 million a year, half of what it needs, leaving $26 million that the state can't pay on time.
How can you possibly pay that $46 million in 1 year?
Usually that money will be available probably by January of the following year.
January of the following year. That's a year after your property taxes are due.
What kind of word was that?
The Tax Commission says its hands are tied, and it can only reimburse schools and counties once it gets more money.
The state of Oklahoma can't pay to the counties any money they don't have. That's part of the budget balance amendment. So we have to wait until there's money available.
Yes, Micah.
Meanwhile, schools wait. At her State of the State last month, Governor Mary Fallin proclaimed education was one of her top goals.
We've tried in my budget over the years to protect education as much as possible.
Knowing her mission is to fund education, we wanted to ask the governor why the state takes so long paying its tax bill to fund schools. For weeks, we tried to set up an interview and get answers from the state's top government official, but her office repeatedly turned us down. Finally, we caught up with her at her State of the State address and asked her about the delay in payment. She said a fix is up to the legislature.
I'm always happy to look at any issue. It's hard to make a judgment call on legislation until it's written and until the issue is thoroughly discussed, but I'm certainly open to listen to any type of suggestions of how we can improve that for our communities and certainly for education.
Now, Russ and Karen, we did ask Governor Fallin to join us today on our show, but she declined. However, her spokesperson did send us a statement. He said the governor is happy to review this matter with the legislature in the next legislative session and to work on developing a funding mechanism that better serves county governments.
Now, the state gets no penalty for paying on time, so there's no interest on those unpaid taxes.
And unlike the state, if a person or business doesn't pay their taxes on time, they get a financial penalty every month they're late.
Yeah, but that's not all. If you don't pay for 3.5 years, then your property goes up for public auction.
This crowd of hundreds is here to find a bargain. As properties are rattled off for auction.
First experience, it was good. My husband had to hold my hand down.
500 properties went up for sale in June. All of them were delinquent, not paying their property taxes for 3.5 years.
I feel horrible and yet lucky at the same time, because I feel horrible that they couldn't afford the taxes or refuse to pay the taxes. But if their loss is my gain.
The Tulsa County Treasurer's Office says the auction is the last resort. If people are late paying their taxes, there's a 1.5% penalty tacked on every month. So for $1,000, that's $15 a month. And that adds up fast. After a year, it totals 18% interest. But that lasts for 3.5 years. If it's longer than that, this is where the properties end up, on the auction block.
The taxes ultimately get paid, because if they don't, the property gets sold.
That money, again, goes back to schools. And without those dollars, the Treasurer's Office says schools suffer.
And those taxes are budgeted based on being collected in the year of levy. So if they're delinquent, it has a significant budgetary effect on the taxing entity.
That's why the Treasurer's Office works hard to recoup what it can at auction, so schools aren't left waiting on the highest bidder.
Sold the property $6,200.
Penalties and unpaid taxes are piling up while money for schools goes down.
But one state lawmaker hopes to at least change the way the state of Oklahoma pays its tax bill.
Oh, we definitely need to find a way to pay our bills on time. We owe that to the citizens.
We'll talk to him about his plan when we come back.
So what's the plan? It's my favorite painting, and I want it back. So you in or out? I'm in. This is awesome. I got this.
It's her painting anyway.
During the final days of the Ford Summer Spectacular, get an escape with 0 for 60, plus up to $1,750 cash back. Now at your Oklahoma Ford dealer.
Welcome to Hidden Tires Plus.
Here for my oil change?
Great. We'll get you out in less than 30 minutes, guaranteed.
It's perfect.
Yeah, we offer it every day with an appointment, or the next one's free.
30-minute oil change, guaranteed every day with an appointment. Right now, get $5 off any oil change in 30 minutes or less with an appointment. Plus, September 1st through 30th, get up to $100 value back by mail when you buy 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. See store or visit HibdenTiresPlus.com for details. Hibden Tires Plus. The plus is in everything we do.
Sometimes, families run a little cold. Sometimes, a little hot. But when you get together around a Papa Murphy's pizza, you create, take, and bake in your oven. 425 degrees is just about perfect. Do pizza night right with our famous cowboy pizza, loaded with pepperoni, sausage, mushrooms, and olives for only $10. A large cowboy, just $10. Papa Murphy's. Love at 425 degrees.
The Two Works For You app, delivering everything new now and next, exactly how you need it.
And we're joined by State Senator Sean Burge from Claremore. Thanks for being with us today.
It's an honor and privilege to be here with you, Russ.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this situation with school funding and the fact that the state owes more money to the schools than anybody else. How did this come about that you found out about it, and kind of what was your reaction initially?
Well, I knew about the exemption, but I didn't know the size and breadth of the exemption until Marla brought it to my attention with Channel 2. And you know, basically what we're doing is we are not paying our bills to the state of Oklahoma. We're allocating $20 million to pay $46 million worth of bills to counties.
What is it going to take to be able to get the state to pay their bills and be able to lift Oklahoma up when it comes to funding for education?
Well, I'm looking at maybe a legislative fix for this particular problem, but the problem is larger in not properly funding public education generally. And so I think we have to make it a priority. I mean, by some measures, we're 49th in funding public education.
Yeah.
We're better than that.
So next year, you're going to propose something and see where it goes from there, and hopefully we can solve this problem, pay our bills, and help kids get the education that they deserve.
That's the plan.
All right, we'll see how it goes. State Senator Sean Byrds, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Submit your best weather picture right now for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card.
People always ask me, what makes Jim Norton Chevrolet different? You have a huge inventory and discounts just like everybody else. So I thought about it, and the answer is not a darn thing. Until right now. At Jim Norton Chevy, you can win $5 grand just for taking a test drive. Get a 3-day vehicle exchange program, free service loaners, and a lifetime warranty. That's what makes Jim Norton Chevy different. Get all the details at JimNortonChevy.com or come visit us at Jim Norton Chevy at Broken Arrow, 61st, just out the BA.
Hey, I'm Bruce from his wireless company. He could have switched to U.S. Cellular and been rewarded with a new phone faster, but why do that when you can just make your old phone feel new again?
Happy birthday, honey.
Dad, this is my old phone.
No, it is not. It's got that new phone smell. Smell it. Smell it.
I did. It smells like lies.
Smells good to me.
U.S. Cellular believes you deserve better with reward points to get you new phones faster. U.S. Cellular. Hello better.
2 Works for You weather. Take us with you. Download our weather apps. Sign up for weather alerts and tune into these radio stations for daily updates. Only from 2 Works for You.
The 2 Works for You app, delivering everything new now and next.
2 News Weekend Mornings, the only station with news and weather on Saturday and Sunday mornings, giving you weekend access every time and everywhere. On your TV, on KJRH.com, on your smartphone and tablet, and through social media. The certified most accurate weather and the local news you want for your weekends. 2 News Weekend Morning, every Saturday and Sunday morning, with Taft Price and Brianne Palmerini, now with an extra hour on Sundays starting at 6 a.m. Only on 2 Works for You.
Oklahoma schools just started the new school year. Tulsa Public Schools did it, 40 fewer teachers than they should have. They did it being short textbooks and computers.
Well, from the state of Oklahoma to big businesses to individual homeowners, more than $12 million in property taxes to help pay for those teachers, those textbooks, and those computers still hasn't been paid today. Our 2 News investigators will continue to keep track of who's paying and who's not throughout the school year.
Thank you for watching. Good night.